Star Wars, Jedi Knights, Jedi Academy. Brilliant game, amazing game, full of lightsaber duels and shooting and force powers and all that kind of stuff. The PC version and the original Xbox version are great, but I'm not talking about those today. I'm talking about the modern ports that Aspyr created for the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4. This is a sequel to a video that I created a few days ago about Jedi Outcast and the Switch and PS4 ports for that game. But now we're looking at the sequel, and wouldn't you know it, the Aspyr ports of this game have not only the problems from the Jedi Outcast ports, but they also add a couple more things to the list. Well, let's just get right into it, shall we? First of all, I want to talk about the performance of the game on the Nintendo Switch. Because while on the PS4 version, at least playing on a PS5, it runs at a constant 60 frames per second, which is beautiful. On the Switch, there are very consistent frame drops, and it makes the game seem really juddery. Not all the time. There are times when it runs at a smooth 60 FPS, but then there are other times when it just runs. It's not great. But, you know, performance on the Switch for many games is quite poor, and I think it'll be fixed anyway when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, if they allow Nintendo Switch games, Nintendo Switch original games, to benefit from the new power of the Nintendo Switch 2. If that happens, then Jedi Academy will no doubt play at a very smooth 60 FPS. So I'm not too bothered about the performance being subpar on Switch at the moment. What I am bothered about, however, is the fact that there are subtitles for the game. If you click all dialogue for the subtitles, so it's not just for the cinematics, you will see in-game that when they do come up, the left and right portions of the subtitles are covered up by the HUD. So if you are hearing impaired, well, screw you, I guess, because you just won't be able to see what's on the left and right of the subtitles properly. And I am certain that they could have done it so that either the subtitles were reduced in size on the left and right so that they were more, you know, in the middle, or just lift up the subtitles a bit so they're above the HUD. It's a very simple thing, but they haven't done it, so it just annoys me because it's such an obvious thing when you put on subtitles for all voiceovers. It's immediately noticeable, and in an age where accessibility has become such a big thing and it is so advanced in the gaming world, this just seems like a massive oversight. And in that vein, the next problem I have with these ports is the fact that you aren't able to scroll text boxes. Now this is probably my biggest problem with this port on both Switch and PS4, because it makes no sense to me whatsoever. If there is a text box and it is filled up with text and you need to be able to scroll it to see the rest of the text, on PC you can easily do this by using the mouse wheel, but on Switch and PS4 you just can't do it. So for example, in this game you get to choose your missions from a choice of 5. And when you click on one of those missions, it comes up with a description. And sometimes the description is too big for just that single text box. So on PC, you have to scroll the mouse wheel or, you know, click on the directional buttons in order to see the rest of the text so you know what kind of mission you're getting into. However, on Switch and PS4, you can't do it because it's based on the PC port, these versions, and they've just seemingly forgotten to emulate the ability to scroll these text boxes. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, I will say, in fairness, when you load into the mission, the loading screen does come up with the entire text of the mission description. However, that's after you've chosen the mission, so if you don't like it, well, too bad. You're on that mission now. And it's also after, you know, a character like Kyle Katarn, who also appears in this game, or maybe Luke Skywalker or someone like that, has already commented on the mission that you're going to be going into. So it just feels very clumsy. And also there are a couple of times when a character will be saying something on the menu screen, and if you want to see all the subtitles for the dialogue, you will have to scroll down the text box to see it. But in the Switch and PS4 versions, you can't do that. You can't scroll down to see the rest of the dialogue. So again, if you are hearing impaired, too bad, I guess. I just think it's really disgusting, to be honest. The accessibility in that regard is just bad. And I don't understand why this didn't get more attention, because it's just so obvious. It's so obvious. Do people not play this version of the game and go, hang on a minute, I can't see what the rest of this text is? And it also happens in a point in the game where you can choose between getting a fast saber stance or a strong saber stance. And the description for the fast and strong saber stance is, do not fit in the little text box. So you have to scroll the text box, but you can't do that on the Switch and PS4 versions. So you just kind of have to choose and then decide whether you like that option or not when you play the game. But at that point, you can't go back and choose a different saber stance. But here's the funny thing. If you go into the menu and go on to moves, the description for each move that you can perform is actually a selectable text box, which you can then scroll. So there are scrolling text boxes in this version of the game, but only for the moves, the description of the moves that you can perform, but not for anything else. That's crazy. Anyway, here's one thing I forgot to mention in my last video, but it also applies here as well. The analog movement in this game is, because it's based on the PC port where you only have 8-directional movement because you're using keyboard and mouse controls, it's the same here in these versions. There's only 8-directional movement. So you have the 4 cardinal directions and then you have the 45-degree angles as well. So what this means is if you're running forwards and you decide you want to take a bit of a right turn, it won't just happen very gradually. It will just snap immediately at a 45-degree angle to the right, which feels off. It just feels very off. And that does not happen in the original Xbox version because Vicarious Visions did a wonderful job with the port of that game for the most part. There are a couple of weird oddities with the Xbox version, which I'll get into. But the end result is that the Switch and the PS4 version end up feeling more rigid in terms of control than the Xbox version does. Next is that they have not improved the field of view when playing in widescreen mode. And so it does seem like, yet again, the top and bottom parts of the screen have been cut off because it seems like the 4:3 mode has just been zoomed in to create a widescreen experience. But hang on a minute, what's going on? There's no 4:3 choice. That's right, you cannot choose to play this game in 4:3 aspect ratio. Even though the PC version plays at a 4:3 aspect ratio, they made it so in this game, the widescreen version is not just the default version, it is the only way to play this game on Switch and PS4. And this is despite the fact that Jedi Outcast on the Switch and PS4 does allow you to choose a 4:3 aspect ratio. So for some reason, they just did not give you the option in Jedi Academy to do exactly what they had done in Jedi Outcast, which is one of the only good things in that port. Next is aim assist, or the lack thereof, because while you do use the lightsaber the majority of the time in Jedi Academy for obvious reasons, because you're playing as a Jedi, there are times where you will want to use some of the other weapons in the game, like for example sniping a Tusken Raider. And while the original Xbox version has aim assist to help you with situations such as this, maybe not for sniping, but for things like, shooting enemies from a distance using a blaster, the Switch and PS4 version doesn't have aim assist, and so it's just a lot more difficult. It's not as big of a deal as it was in Jedi Outcast, because you do get a lightsaber from the very beginning. However, it is still irritating, and it just shows a lack of care. A lack of care has been put into this port, and especially seeing as the original Xbox version does have aim assist, I just don't know why this one doesn't have it, or Jedi Outcast. Now, my next problem with this game is to do with the cheats, the cheat menu that can be unlocked if you input a certain combination of buttons. You can choose from a couple of things, like God mode, no clip, give all, which gives you all items and force powers in the game, and that's all well and good, but this is a game in which you can also choose to use dual lightsabers or a saber staff, or what's more commonly known as a double-bladed lightsaber. And so you can warp yourself to the end of the game, but you will not be able to give yourself dual sabers or a saber staff. And if you're saying, well, maybe there aren't any cheats in the PC version that give you dual sabers or a saber staff, but there are. And these are cheats, so it's not a massive thing, but it just feels like, come on guys, come on, you could have put a cheat for dual sabers and a saber staff. There's also a glitch that's carried over from the PC version, which if you give yourself give all, then the lightsaber stances will get a bit screwed up. And so if you scroll through them until you end up on the fast saber stance, it will be stuck there and you won't be able to change your stance from that point forwards. But thanks to looking on the internet, I found a fix for it, which is that you activate the no clip command, and then you press the lightsaber stance button 4 times exactly. Then you turn off no clip, and that will have put you back on the medium saber stance. Of course, if you then try and switch to the strong stance and then the fast stance again after that, you'll get stuck again and you'll have to use the no clip fix to fix it again. So that's just a bit of a PSA there for anyone who needs it. But again, those are cheat codes, so I mean, not a massive deal. But the rest of the stuff I've talked about, I care very much about, except for the performance, of course. But let's look at what these ports did well, what they've done positively compared to Jedi Outcast, because I think it's important to recognize this. On the Switch version, you can save the game up to 40 times, so you can have 40 different saves. I think that's brilliant because the Switch port of Jedi Outcast only allows you to have 5 saves at a time. And having 40 saves at a time really just makes having to delete saves a non-issue. So that is something that they took from Jedi Outcast, they listened to the feedback, and they fixed it in Jedi Academy. So I think that's great. Well done, Aspyr. Thank you for doing that. And on the PlayStation 4 version, at least I'm playing it on a PS5, but it's a PS4 version, it no longer uses the PlayStation's generic save system. It in fact saves within the game itself. And so it means that you can save in the game and you can delete saves in the game. So it completely eliminates the problem I had with the PS4 version of Jedi Outcast in terms of saving the game. You no longer have to quit out of the game and go into the system menu to delete the save files and then go back into the game. That's not here anymore. In Jedi Academy, you just save the game and you delete the games within the game itself. I think it's brilliant, and it's not the same as being able to overwrite save files, but this is a totally good enough option. I didn't count how many saves are available on the PS4, but I'm assuming it's similar to the Switch or even more. So overall, save files have been fixed with Jedi Academy. They didn't go back and do it with Outcast, but Jedi Academy is completely fine when it comes to saving the game and deleting saves. Now, another problem that people had with Jedi Outcast on the Switch and PS4 was being unable to turn off your lightsaber with the push of a button. And in Jedi Academy, they have fixed that because there is now a dedicated button to turning on and off your lightsaber. And I think that's brilliant because it just creates a more immersive feeling and it makes sure that you don't accidentally hurt any NPCs that you're around by accidentally poking them with a lightsaber, which is something that could happen in Jedi Outcast if you weren't careful. So that's something I really appreciate, and I do thank Aspyr for doing that. And I do think it is important to recognize that Aspyr has done a couple of good things here, especially compared to Jedi Outcast. However, I do wish they had gone back to Jedi Outcast and fixed those things there as well. Moreover, I wish they'd fixed all the rest of the stuff I've talked about in this video as well, post-launch. So those are the Switch and PS4 versions. But let's talk about the Xbox version now, which can be played on a Series X or a Series S. Now, when I was originally playing through that version of the game, not too long ago, I found that it used to have this strange artifacting, so some of the lights would go through the walls, so that you could see them from outside a building when the lights were inside the building. However, when I went to record footage this time, I found that wasn't happening, so I'm not quite sure what changed. Maybe there was a system OS update that maybe changed that somehow. It just seemed like an emulation problem that is now mysteriously fixed. Unless I go back and play it again and it suddenly starts to happen. The Series X version and the Series S version also has really stuttery performance. And I'm not sure what's causing it, to be honest. And when I say stuttery, I mean stuttery. It's heavily noticeable and it's quite unpleasant. So it's not really my recommended way of playing Jedi Academy. Really, the PC version is the way to go. But you have to be prepared to fix things. Look on PC Gaming Wiki. That's the best way to go. Best guide to use. Another problem with the Xbox version is that on Hoth, there are supposed to be light beacons that appear in a cutscene and also in the gameplay, and they lead you forwards because Hoth is experiencing a snowstorm when you arrive in the game, and so you're supposed to use the light beacons to guide you forwards. However, the lights just aren't there. They're just not working for some reason. But they do work on original Xbox hardware. It's probably just another emulation issue, but it is a problem, and so I just thought I would point it out. And one more thing about the Xbox, even on original hardware, it has this weird thing where if you turn off your lightsaber, sometimes Jaden does this animation where he turns his hand around again, like the animation repeats itself even after the lightsaber's turned off. It's a very weird thing. I don't know why, but that was present on the original Xbox version on original Xbox hardware, 20 years ago. So yeah, that's not a massive deal to me. It's a classic bug. Right, so those are the issues I found with the Switch and PS4 versions of Jedi Academy. There may be some multiplayer bugs I don't know of, because I haven't really looked at multiplayer, because I never really was that interested in multiplayer for Jedi Academy. I played it a little bit when I was a kid, but not massively. So if you do know of any bugs in the multiplayer of this version, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. So what version of the game do I recommend overall? Well, like I said, it's got to be the PC version. Go onto PC Gaming Wiki to help fix things if they go a bit wrong. It can be a little bit difficult to get running in a way that's actually performant, but I think it is worth it. If you want the best version of the game, PC version is the way to go. It isn't like Star Wars Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, which is frankly almost impossible to get running well on a modern PC. No, Jedi Academy is a lot easier than that, so I do recommend it. But with that, that's the end of this video. So I hope you enjoyed me ranting about these versions of Jedi Academy. I just feel like this video needs to get out there just so that people know, because I don't think that they're that well known, to be honest. And Jedi Academy is such a classic game, and I really would love it if Aspyr went back and fixed these ports so that we could say, yes, these are very good console versions of these games that anyone can just pick up and play. Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy are still my favourite Jedi simulators of all time. I love the Star Wars Jedi series from Respawn. I absolutely love those games, but in terms of feeling like an absolute Jedi god, there's nothing beating Outcast and Academy. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Smash that like button. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. But thank you for warping with me to the Star Wars galaxy, and I will see you next time.